Good morning everyone. I honestly never thought the day would come when we got to discuss these things. I mean, we can joke about the whole thing as much as we want, and honestly we have, including making some pretty cursed renders, but for us to actually be able to talk about them objectively, and for them to be nothing like a lot of us imagined, it's just very exciting. Today we're looking at the Moonlord's legs from Terraria. The Moonlord's legs are not actually what would be generally considered as legs as such, but a set of prehensile tentacles that share the general brown and green coloration of the Moonlord himself. While it's difficult to tell for sure, it's likely that there is a total of 8 legs, similar to an octopus's arms, that allow for greater speed and enhanced jump ability, as well as full resistance. However, they do appear to completely replace their user's original legs. Now, it's safe to assume that these legs are not the Moonlord's actual legs, primarily due to the fact that they would have originally belonged to a 400-foot tall eldritch abomination, and would be rather unwieldy for the average native of Terraria. More likely is that they are some sort of facsimile, with an enchantment bestowed upon them. Some even consider that they're either a prototype, or a part of a preborn version of one of the Starspawn of Cthulhu, creatures said to be destined to burn across the stars, and the very beings legends of Terraria consider will be born from the Crimson once it matures sufficiently. However, the location they are typically found must also be considered, as they can be found within a chest hidden deep within the root systems of the living trees, arch trees that are hypothesized to be the original homes of the nymphs and dryads. Therefore, it could be theorized that rather than being completely abandoned, the dryad still uses her ancestral home as a secluded locale in order to carry out experiments, growing portions of the threat she fears she will someday have to face in order to better understand how to defeat it. Then of course there is the remote possibility that they are the Moonlord's legs after all, only they are a new replacement set, currently immature but which will eventually grow to size so that they can be attached to their master. It is unknown how they would have been created for this purpose, and why exactly they would be located in the hollows of the living trees, but due to the fact there is so little known about them, the possibilities cannot easily be exhausted. Other than allow us to craft any number of outlandish theories, the legs found upon Terraria can also give us quite an insight into the Moonlord himself. Previously, because of his vaguely anthropoidal appearance, it was thought by many that his legs would have been much like those of most upright standing creatures on Terraria, but because he was originally an octopus effectively, from below the waist, it can be seen that he was much more of an eldritch being, much more akin to Yog-Sothoth or Shub-Niggurath. While the nature of his legs do not really impact the legend's retelling of history, in fact they enhance the story somewhat, the idea of giant tentacles wrapping around a cosmic engine being much more appealing than it walking around on a pair of normal legs. Still, this does not really help us to understand precisely how he lost his legs in the first place, as there are no known accurate records on the topic. Some have interpreted the official historical records of Terraria to mean that the Moonlord was in fact Cthulhu all along, and that the loss of his legs was simply the result of the onslaught from the dryads. But there is still evidence to suggest that the Moonlord and Cthulhu were rather brothers, meaning that the Moonlord's injuries remain unexplained. Debate continues within the community as to this situation, but discussion on that is probably best left for another time. The Moonlord's legs are certainly an interesting find, and open up a whole host of questions about how the smaller variant relates to the Moonlord and the implications of finding them in the living trees. However, despite their uncommon nature, they are not exceedingly rare once you know where to look, and their abilities can be outpaced relatively quickly by a whole host of other items and enchantments in Terraria, leaving them as nothing but a curiosity. For this reason, the Moonlord's legs have been assigned an artifact rating of merely significant. Now, the only reason we say merely there is because you'd expect the Moonlord's legs of all things to be all that more rare and powerful, but no, just a slight increase in agility, and that's about it. Actually, thinking about it, does that mean that the Moonlord was a keen athlete? Bit weird for someone who's meant to live in a screaming void of deep space, but who am I to judge? Anyway, please subscribe for more course content and become a patron or channel member to support the lecture series. Now, have a great week, and please try your hardest to avoid wearing any octopi as trousers. They tend to kick you out the aquarium for that.